Hello fashionistas, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'll be teaching us how to make this lovely corset top. Let's get right into it. Okay, so the first thing I did was to mark my starting point and mark the length, my desired length for the top, which is 17 inches. Like I always say, there's no standard measurement for these things. You can decide to make yours longer or shorter, but for mine, I made it 17 inches. The next thing I did was to mark my shoulder measurement, which is 7 inches. And as you can see in the video, I marked 7 inches, and I'm going to be marking that 7 inches all the way down. Just keep looking at what I'm doing. Okay, so the next thing I did was to mark my chest point, which is 8 inches, and this is just to guide me on, taking out my armhole and marking out my armhole. Like I said, you need to always pay attention and just look at what I'm doing. It's so easy and you're going to get it. So now I'm just trying to trace out my armhole, and my armhole is 10 inches. So I already marked out my 10 inches. So the next thing to do now is to divide my measurements by 4 and map it out. That means your bust measurement divided by 4, you are going to map that out, and your waist measurement divided by 4 too. My waist measurement is 30, and 30 divided by 4 is going to give us 7.5. I added 1 inch to that, and that gave me 8.5. So as you can see, I marked out 8.5, and I'm just going to trace that all the way down. So after doing that, this is what my back panel looks like. I cut the back first. I'm going to still tell you the reason why, but this is my back panel, and I'm just going to cut it out. The next thing to do now is to cut my front panel, and I'm just tracing out my starting point so that I don't have any rough edges. That is what I'm doing. So I just marked out my starting point, and I measured 1.5 inches away from that starting point. That is to serve as an overlap for my eyelet. You're still going to see how I'm going to do that. Just keep watching. So I marked out 1.5 inches, and I'm going to take that all the way down. Okay, so having done that, the next thing is just to repeat my process for the back panel, for the front panel too, nothing serious. So I'm just going to mark my starting point from the upper part, and I'm just going to mark 17 inches too, just like I did for the back panel. So I'm going to mark 17 inches, draw my armhole, and transfer my measurement. And I know you might be wondering, okay, so why not just use the back to cut the front? The reason why we can't cut both together or use the back to cut the front is because we are going to do a little dart manipulation for the front panel, and that's why we have to cut them separately, and you'll still see how to do that. Okay, so the next thing I did was mark out my shoulder. I marked out my chest line and drew my armhole just like I did for the front. The only difference was instead of adding just 1 inch allowance that I added for the back, I added 2 inch extra allowance for the front. So the next thing I did was mark 3 inches away from my 1.5 inch line, and I marked another 3 inches, which made it 2 3 inches line. As you can see, just look at the video. So I'm going to mark that line all the way down, and that is going to stand as my dart lines. So basically what I did there was take 0.25 inch on both sides of my dart lines, and I took 0.25 on both sides, and I took that all the way up, and I just thinned it down, as you can see in the video. After doing that, I added 1 inch to my panel all through. That means I added 1 inch to my armhole lines and 1 inch to my side lines too, all the way down. So this is the extra 1 inch I was talking about, which makes it 2 inch altogether that I added to my front panel. The next thing to do now is to cut out my panels and cut out my darts too. I already cut it out, and please don't forget to always number your panels. It will make it easy when you want to join them so you don't make mistakes. The next thing to do now is to join my panels just as I have numbered them. It should look like this after you are done. The next thing I did was to mark my neck depth. I made my neck depth 7 inches. I marked that out, and I made my shoulder 3 inches too. I joined it together. I wanted it slant, so I joined it together, as you can see in the video. And like I always say, it doesn't have to be the exact measurement I used. You can make yours bigger or smaller. It's actually a game of preference. The next thing I did was my shoulder slant. I marked 1 inch close to my armhole and I cut that out. So I have to return that 1 inch because automatically now my armhole is shorter. The next thing I did was to repeat the process I did for the front to the back, just that my neck depth for the back is really small. I made it ½ inch because I don't want my neck too low, so I made it ½ inch and just repeat the process. The next thing I did was cover up my lower part. There's no measurement for this. I just worked with my preference, so I'd advise you work with your preference too. And I did the same thing for the back. My back is straight, it's not slant in any way. It's just my front panel that has a curved shape. The next thing to do is to top stitch all my seam lines, and as you can see, I'm using a gold thread for this just to give it a nice design, nothing serious. I don't think I need to talk much for this area because I'm not doing anything serious. I'm just using a gold thread to top stitch my jean just to give it a nice design, like I said. So just look at what I'm doing. I've top stitched everything and now I'm joining my front panel to my back panel. Remember, our back panel does not have any dot lines, so I'm joining both together now. This is what I have after I'm done, and now it's time for me to go and weave all my edges so that I can take that in and tape it in too. So now I've weaved all my edges. Now it's time for me to tape and top stitch, so just pay close attention to the video and see what I'm doing. Now I'm done top stitching and it's time to take my measurements, so I'm just taking my measurements all the way down. Remember the 1.5 inches we added to our front panel? Now I've taken it in and I'm just going to top stitch it all the way down, so it's going to serve as our highlight base. So I've done that for both sides and I've taped my lower part too. Now it's time for finishing and I'm just adding my tags. As you can see, our top is now ready. I've done my eyelet. I got this rope at the market for 150 naira and I've weaved all my insides. As you can see, it's very neat. Always make sure you take your time to cut off threads and make sure your job is always neat. And that brings us to the end of this video. I'm very sure you've learned 1 or 2 things. Please don't hesitate to ask me any questions. And if you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel already, now is the time to do so. And don't forget to click on the notification bell. Thank you for watching. Bye.